land. We're
You
live.
already
It says
know.
live.
It's we're live.
And there's
We're
a
on
lot of
fire.
finaglage.
Fire, fire,
Um,
fire. A lot of fire.
so listen, I have no idea what I'm doing. We're gonna
So
attempt.
so basically, this the way I usually do it is before I go live. So are you planning to use this platform in the future for anything?
Probably.
Okay, so what typically happens is the conversation we were having before is where I do the what's off limits, what's not, that kind of conversation with the guest, depending on what kind of guest they are, what kind of profile that I'm talking to. Any last minute notes and show take, you know how to do that. So I do that before I hit the live button. So now that we're live, all those things are already taken care of before we had those things. So anybody that you give the YouTube link to at this point can come into the chat and see the conversation. Now, on the YouTube page, there's going to be a chat box, and that chat box is going to be able to allow the individuals to ask questions if they want to ask questions about anything. So I'm actually going to go on Twitter and see if you posted.
I have no idea what my Twitter password is there, and that's the funny thing. And this is live, so I don't know if I'm editing this out or not. It just seems to be.
No. We're checking it out. We're checking it out for sure. So yeah. So did you? You didn't post anything on Twitter yet, did you?
No.
Okay. Let me see if it shows me who's live. Because if we're following each other on Google, I should see it. I don't know if I see anything yet for you, though.
But I don't know if this is... Oh. Start Hangout on air, but we are on air. Listen, I don't know what's going on. I just made a little thing on the Facebooks.
You made a thing on Facebook. Okay, so is there 2 links on the bottom right showing you a YouTube link or a...
Oh, there is a button that says shut your mouth. Shut your mouth right now.
So then
this is what that. Let me now edit the post that I made.
Yeah, so that YouTube link, if you post, can you post that YouTube link in this group chat here? Our group chat?
Yeah, I can do that.
All right, yeah, so if you post that, then I can post that on Twitter right now. That we're testing out, figuring things out.
Yeah, we're testing, we're figuring it. It's I have no idea what's going on here.
It'll be fun.
Hold on, throw the link in the chat. Boom. It's in the chat.
Got it.
There we have it.
Got it. So now it's about to be on Twitter.
Edit post. Let me take this.
Live with King Phoenix right now. Bam. Bam. And then I'm going to hit that. Boom.
See how it is. It's just working. It's just working.
It is.
It's a little nerve-wracking now.
Why?
Jesus.
There it is.
Because I don't know what we're going to talk about. This is literally
about anything. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about, man. I mean, you know, I usually have like some bullet points in my mind that I want to focus on, and then kind of chop it up with you and stuff like that. So we're going to have something to discuss for sure. So I'm not necessarily concerned about that.
I look like a hood booger. That's the one thing here. The little do-rag going on and things of that nature. So, okay, let's just kick this thingamajogger off, shall we?
Okay. Oh, so you're gonna do an intro now. So
yeah, we're gonna.
You don't know what you're doing, but yeah, you're gonna do an official intro. I'm
gonna do an official intro because that's called post-production. It's called post-production. That's what we're gonna do here. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to, I guess our annual podcast that you and I do, Catch Up. And I am your host, Phoenix, of the Phoenix Podcast. Clearly, it says it's right there. It's right there in the blue. It's right there in the blue. It's rather shallow and pedantic. I'm joined by Andrew from the Show Radio.
What's going on, boss? How you feel?
You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, wonderful. And that's how we do it. So welcome back. Welcome to the show. I have my little Xbox One little thingamajoggers on. Brand marketing right there.
I see it.
Brand marketing.
I see it.
So this is a free formatted show. There's
yeah,
no
I love this. This is great. This is exciting, bro. This is what it's all about, man. You know, intelligent minds, bringing out great conversation, and you know, different things that's happening in space, whether it's, you know, podcasting, video, and all the different things like that. So there's always stuff to talk about, man. So where you want to start?
Jesus. Oh God. Let's okay. Let's discuss the it was an interesting conversation I actually had the other day with a friend of mine who does a podcast over at the Fan Bros. Shout out to them. How do you feel about the representation of people of color in podcasting?
Okay, so it's segmented because I know a few of you guys and gals, right? So even looking at the space, my only concern has always been, what are we saying that matter? That's really the conversation, because we can see representation, right? And okay, I just want to make sure you hear me, because I know you're not. You're thinking right now. You're thinking, and I love it. And I love it. So we see representation. So I don't think it's necessarily the issue, because anybody can turn on this mic and then get on it and say something. But are you saying something of value? Are you saying something that's going to affect change? You know, so these are the conversations that we need to have. So if we specifically bring it down to the space that we have, whether it's tech, gaming, and entertainment, who's saying what, and do we really care, right? And can we identify somebody that we can say, hey, you know what? I like what they're saying and I can vibe with that, right? And I know even in our space, you know, the colleagues or the individuals that we surround ourselves with, some because we want to, some because we just can't get away from them, depending on their product and their brand and what they offer, because they seem to be in our circles. We're still trying to figure out exactly, you know, who's going to be that voice or voices that we can cling to for diversity and representation, right? So it's still a conversation that is always going to be a question mark, depending on who we feel is going to hold up that banner for us, per se, if you want to have one person do that.
I don't see it. Well, I see what you mean, but I don't really look at it as, let's say, the banner, so to speak. And we have viewers. Hello, viewers in the chat. If you want to say something, if I say something stupid, you can call me out.
Please,
or questions, please, always, please. Like he said, I think it's important to highlight and showcase other great works from people of color. Like, that's why, like, for me, one of my favorite shows is The Read. I remember first discovering them in 2013, and Kid Fury and Crystal, they personify like everything I've wanted in a podcast, where they're Beyonce fans just like myself. And they talk about pop culture. They talk about things from a narrative that I can relate to, and they speak my quote unquote lingo.
Okay, so what is that narrative though? Okay, so let's break that down. A narrative like,
I don't want to say it's quote unquote, or they can be as bangy and ratchet as they want, because I think they do a great show, but they literally have no boundaries. They have nothing that that they don't say. Like, they just drop the F-bombs. They talk about social injustices and social issues from Black perspectives. They talk about everything that they do from a Black perspective. They give that knowledge, and then they're both LGBT. So for me, that's something that I'm just like, wow, you know, I want to be able to continue to support people who put quality shows out, and not only quality shows, but again, people of color, because we don't see a lot of, especially in the video game nerd space.
Okay, so define quality. So quality, depending on how you're defining that, is it quality to you per se and what you feel that you can relate to the show? Because sometimes quality can be defined differently, right? Quality can be, okay, so these are the things that speak to me, and I think that's quality. Quality can be, this is intelligent conversation, and I can actually leave this particular show and say, you know what, there's a lot to think about. That's quality. Quality can be just guys having a good time, and you can feel that that relationship is genuine. That could be considered quality. So what exactly are we talking about? So the way you defined it, or the context that you surrounded that with, is the fact that you can relate to them a lot. Like the way they do the show, maybe personalities and different things like that. The way you define quality for you and the context of what you gave is the way maybe culturally, intellectually, maybe your constitution you can relate to with that particular podcast that you enjoy listening to today. So it depends on what we're talking about right now.
I think as far as quality, I think there's no one in the space of what they're doing that's doing it. And what I mean by that is when I look at their show, there's no one in, let's say, the LGB, huh?
How long is the show typically?
Hour and a half, 2 hours.
Okay.
There's no one in that LGBT space that's doing like, how can I, okay. So for me, instance, Beyonce's quality. I think she's like the creme de la creme when it comes to entertainment, being a Black woman in an industry that's not necessarily built for Blacks to have power, so to speak, but she has that power where she can do whatever she wants. I feel as though, as far as podcasting goes, that's how I look at them as far as the echelon of podcasts. Like, I think, because they're part of the Loudspeakers Network, and I think that they, for whatever reason, to me, it just sticks out as like one of the, they're not, it's a formatted show, but it's not like NPR formatted. Like that's, you know, quote unquote sound quality, things like that. I just think that they talk about things that me and my friends can talk about and put a whole new different perspective on it. And that alone carries weight because me and my friends could listen to that show and have a whole discussion about their listener letters that they get, people asking for relationship advices and things like that. So I think they do a quality job. I think if people haven't listened to it, I say give them a try, but just to gauge your own opinion. But I think they're doing a great job as far as, you know, one of them works for Apple Music now because of the podcast. The other one simply does the podcast, and that's where he makes his money off of. So I think kudos off to them. That's just, I'm a fan and I've met them and they're just so cool. But yeah, I'm fanning out right now. So anyway,
that's all right. And so much so that you're promoting them and they're not even soliciting for that promotion because you've invested many hours of listening to the show, whether it's, you know, I mean, a month, if they do 3 or 4 shows, that's a lot of hours that you've invested because of the content that they're putting out. Formatted content, it may not necessarily be NPR type format, but it's formatted enough for you to continue following the flow of that conversation, right? And that's fine. Quality, I don't get so much. Just thinking about some of the things that you said. Quality, I don't necessarily get bent out of shape about, you know, what a show sounds like anymore. If the content is good enough for me to hear it and I can follow, and the sound doesn't, you know, distract me from exactly what's happening in a conversation, I think that's fine enough for me to hear it. So I'm not really bent on the sound quality as much as I used to be in the past, but that's either here nor there.
So I think also, I mean, and you and I have had this conversation offline as far as the video game space goes. And it was interesting how, you know, I do this podcast with 2 friends of mine, Chris and Drew, who I think they've made me step my game up in a way where I'm more vocal about social issues and things of that nature. And being a gamer,
right?
I'm just going to say it because I mean, granted, everyone who knows me knows I'm not a racist. So I'm tired of playing games where the main character is not someone that does not look like me. And when I play a game, that character that does look like me is a character who is a loudmouth, who is a buffoon, who's in the background, a secondary side piece character. And I think it's time that we get proper inclusion in that. And I think that we can have a great game with someone that looks like me or you on the front of the box. And it doesn't have to be Crackdown. It doesn't have to be someone who's standing off on the side on a Gears of War art. It doesn't have to be someone who's going up against Master Chief and all this other stuff. I think it's a way that we can be the lead characters of a game, a AAA game. And I think the first game that's doing that now, even it's sad, I'm not going to say sad to say, but it's a game that and franchise I don't really care about, which is Assassin's Creed Origins. And I'd like to see more of that in video games. I'd like to see big AAA titles put people of color as the main protagonist or antagonist in the game. I would, me personally, I would like to see that. I think in like Call of Duty, like if you break down the demographic, Madden, NBA 2K, any NBA game rather, we shouldn't be subjected to just athletic covers, so to speak, because you know your demographic is majority of African Americans that are going to buy the product. I mean, a lot of African Americans do play Gears of War. A lot of African Americans do play, what is that, Call of Duty. But every Call of Duty game, it's a white guy on the front of the cover. And I don't like, to me, growing up, just got so used to seeing white people on the front of a video game box. And I was just kind of like, all right, cool. I didn't think anything of it. But then getting older, growing up, it's kind of like, all right, cool. I don't want to have a game where I can, quote unquote, make a character that looks like me, right, that you can tell there's no one person that's sitting there at that studio that's black to say, no, this is how a black person's feature should be. This is how dreadlocks should naturally look. This is how cornrows should naturally look. And I think that sucks, because I do want, like, let's say the quote unquote younger generation to have those people to look up to. And we're finally getting that with Marvel, with Black Panther in February.
Right.
So how do you feel about that?
So it's a conversation that we continue to explore among our colleagues, right? So let's even start there. So there's some games that came out, and that whether it was the Mafia game or the Battlefield, I think there was the black character for that particular Battlefield. There was the game where you're hacking into thing. What's the name of that game again?
Watch Dogs.
Yeah, Watch Dogs. You know, so there was that thing. So we're seeing a few and far in between. I'm not going to say just because we're seeing a few, we should be satisfied. You know, in terms of seeing more, I'm definitely down for that. You know, I'm not against that. So in terms of creating the characters, having the option to, you know, and you mentioned Master Chief, so I just want to go back to that. I always liked the way they presented Master Chief, even though I knew that he was a white character, right? I like the fact that they gave you the opportunity to put yourself into that character every time they took the mask, the helmet, and put it on, and they never really showed, you know, the face, because they wanted you to identify with that. Then later on, with the iteration of the Halo games, they gave you the ability, I don't know if it was day one for the first game or not, to be a female character in terms of the suit, right? The Milner suit and different things like that for the females and stuff like that. So my point, having the options to do that in those games, I think are always great. I don't think it's never going to be enough for us as people of color. And when we see the things that are being produced, we're always going to say that's not enough, right? We're always going to want more. So whether it's, you know, 2016, 15, or any year prior to that, we're always going to look at the industry and wonder if there's going to be somebody who's going to step up and create another game that's going to have a front face black person, front face Asian person, front face Puerto Rican person. We're always going to see that, and we're lack of it, I should say, and wonder if it's enough or not. And it's not going to be enough for us until we see it trending higher than it is right now. So that's hope and disappointment at the same time.
See, and I think, like, because someone, it's so funny, because you know me outside of the podcast, so you know how opinionated I really am. And it shocked me the other day when I got a message from someone who's like, oh, you're a racist and this, that, and the fourth. And I'm like, I am? I never knew that about myself. Thank you so much for pointing that out to me, who's known me for 30 years. But I think the message that a lot of people get mixed up is when I champion, or when people of any nationality that is not Caucasian champions their own race, they're not racist. They want to be included, quote unquote, in the conversation. They want to see accurate representation. They want to see their culture shine in whatever medium that it's being represented in. And
So what was the Horizon
I
Zero Dawn? What was going on with the Horizon Zero Dawn thing? That just came to my mind for some reason. There was something going on there with race and people being named something in particular, and that wasn't necessarily well received or something like that. I remember those conversations happening on social media or whatever, but
sidebar. Don't recall that, but if I had to guess, I could probably say it was more something along the lines of like, when you play that game, you get a Native American type feel.
Type vibe, okay.
And that might have been the issue. But even with that game, you know what I mean? Like, it has so many Native American style influences in it, but yet there's a blue-eyed redhead chick on the cover of it. Okay. And I'm not, and it's not to say anything negative about the situation or the game, because I think the game is beautifully done. I was quite bored with it. That's why I stopped playing it. But does it borderline come off of culture appropriation? Because when you look at, okay, prime example, I love Rockstar to death, but San Andreas, not every Black person wears their pants below their ass, shoots up the clubs and does this and does that, and yo, my bruh, what's up, bruh? Like, that's not how every Black person is. And because another podcast had brought that up as a conversation as far as Grand Theft Auto, is that kind of glorifying the negative side of, I don't want to say like, okay,
Black culture.
Right. You know what I mean? Okay. Like, is that glorifying the negative side of it? While the games are fun, don't get me wrong, I love the GTA Online, I love the story mode, but is that glorifying it, and are we accepting that it's glorifying it?
Okay, so I don't think it's glorifying it, because there are sections in the world that are like that. So in terms of, because okay, so the thing for me when it comes to seeing these games or playing these games, or even purchasing, depending on what the situation is we're buying what the companies have decided that sells, right? Mm-hmm. And I think at the core of most of the conversations that we have, not you and me, but individuals that we have conversations with, they forget that these companies are in business to make money, right? And I always like to go back to that, because that's why these people are in business. So if they feel like speaking or creating a narrative for this particular game, and they feel it's accurate according to their own perception, right? Mm-hmm. And it's marketable enough, and about marketing, for it to catch fire and sell and make money, they're going to do that. Now, whether that takes 2 to 3 years for some companies, or maybe 5 to 6, like Rockstar, because they take a long time to make their games. They make a game because they know that narrative is something that's not necessarily on the market right now. They've done the SWOT analysis. They realize that this is going to be okay. They did the opportunity cost stuff already, so they realize that that stuff is already set for that particular conversation. They create the narrative. They do the hype from the top. We do the buzz from the bottom. The game sells, and we're going to always have something negative to say about a particular thing, because it's never going to be a fully accurate representation of any culture, any demographic, unless the person wants to make sure that it is that. So while I'm thinking about that, the Tupac movie, I don't know what's going on there, but there's a whole conversation saying that it wasn't a great representation of that particular thing. I don't know what happened with the Biggie thing, right? In terms of the movie is concerned, in terms if that was the right representation of that. So you're taking these biopics and you're recreating them. And what is at the end of the day, what's the main purpose of that, right? It's to make money, right? It's to tell a story. If it's being told from the individuals who really want to tell it, it's not really about the money, right? But if it isn't, it always comes back down to that. So we love these games, we love these experiences, and some of them we don't necessarily love and appreciate them. But we still have to remember that at the end of the day, depending on the company's vision and mission statement, it's going to be about those dollars, right? I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that's what is.
Okay, now have you seen Wonder Woman?
Not yet.
Okay, so I don't want to get into that then, because
let's get into something that you mentioned before, because you mentioned that you have co-hosts now, right? So, and you've had them for a while. So I'm new to the co-hosting thing. So I definitely want to talk about that journey and how that took place. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to frame it before I go into my my monologue, if you will. So are your co-hosts mixed, black? What are your co-hosts?
Black, definitely. Okay. So Eddie and Dio are Hispanic.
Okay.
They're still very, again, we talked about this, but I just want to reiterate to the listeners of the show that they're still very much a part of the show. Dio's actually getting married in 2 weeks, and I'm so excited for him. Congrats to Dio. That's my brother. Eddie's my brother.
How did you pick them to be on the show? How did that happen?
How did what happen?
How did it get to your show? How did they become part of the normal individuals with a mic talking to you? How did it become?
Oh, okay. So I guess how the show started, I was on a different podcast at the time, and I remember sitting back, and it's no slight to them at all. Love them dearly. It got to a point where I was sick of the video game industry. I think this was right around 2011, 2012. No, 2012 is when I started this podcast. So 2011-ish, going into 2012. Gotcha. I was just sick of talking about video games.
But how are you sick talking about video games and we're still talking about that now? Okay, so what happened? So something had to happen to make you sick of talking about video, because we love talking about video games.
Oh, we do.
Bro,
we do.
Come on now. We got some games coming out. I can't wait to talk about them. We got the Destiny thing right around the corner in July, right?
Yes, we do.
You know, we got Uncharted Lost Legacy coming out in August, I think, right? Then you got Destiny 2 coming out in September. You have Call of Duty coming out in November. We love talking about games, right?
I think it was more of a point that at that time, I think I was going through so much in life where I wanted to really focus on life experiences more. Right. I wanted to be able to talk about more than just video games. There's so much happening in the world. The Trayvon Martin thing, which I was just kind of like, wow, like really, this is a thing. And we have a platform, and we're not using this platform to talk about things that are affecting people that could be in our neighborhoods. And I think that was something that kind of just, I was just like, eh. And then Superman, Heroic Superman, who still a good friend of mine, he had did a podcast called Just Our Opinion, or That's Our Opinion. That's
Our Opinion, right?
And it was a show where we didn't talk about video games. We talked about everyday life occurrences. Like, you know, at the time he was living in West Bubblefuck, Maryland, and he was going through it with some things at that time. And we would just get on the mic and turn the mics on and just go. It was very raw, it was authentic. And
right.
I wanted to capture that, and I wanted to do that all over again. And then I think Rasta Killer was the one that kept pushing me. He's like, bro, do your own show, do your own show, do your own show. And then it just got to a point where it's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna jump out. I didn't know anything about editing. I didn't know anything about how to upload, none of it. I just jumped in head first. And I'm glad I made that decision, because Eddie, I mean, naturally, Eddie was the first person that I thought of, because Eddie and I are such polar opposites in a way. He's a huge PlayStation fan. I don't want to say an Xbox bot, sorry, but I'm a huge Microsoft supporter. Right. And I didn't want a show where everyone is on one accord, because Eddie can bring up something that, boom, this is Eddie's opinion, Eddie's sticking to it, and you're not changing his mind. And I'm very much the same way.
So did you seek them out, or was it a natural grafting in?
I think,
you know what I mean?
I think for me, I didn't. That's because Eddie and I were doing that, the show that we were doing at the time.
Right.
We were doing that together. So and Eddie and I talked every day around that time. And I called Eddie and was like, bro, I'm going to start a podcast, and I want you to be a part of it. And he's like, I'm down. You know, didn't ask any specifics. He's just said, I'm down. Right. Then I think throughout, I want to say episode 1 to maybe in the 30s, we would have an alternating third chair.
Okay.
And it was some people who I was like, yeah, they'd be good fit. You know, I game with them. They know what they're talking about. They bring different dynamics. Then I think one episode in particular, I can't remember which episode it was, but the person was inebriated in a way. And it just like they weren't paying attention at all to the topic of conversation. So I was like, yeah, I don't think that's going to work. And then I was like, who can we get as a third person to just jump in and fill out the shoes? And then Eddie was like, why not get Dio? And I'm like, I didn't think of that. And then I called Dio the following morning and I said, Dio, the three of us were friends. We have a great rapport. We've known each other for about 4 years at this point. Let's just jump in. Do you want to be a part of the show? And Dio said, yeah. And then it was just literally every week magic that was caught in a bottle every week. Like you couldn't script the stuff that we were talking about. We had a segment every week called, what was it? Movies that Dio's never seen. And it was just, it was just magic caught in a bottle. But then, like I said, it got to a point where Dio was, and rightfully so, focusing on a marriage, met the love of his life, proposed, she accepted, focus on the marriage. When you're done, you're always going to have a seat. We're going to continue to pick up where we left off. And then I was like, I don't want to do a podcast by myself because it's going to feel real stupid. Just me, who's always bounced back and forth with people, like opinions and things. So I said, okay, let me think of who I could get on the podcast. So about a year ago, maybe 14, 13 months ago, we were all in this Xbox Live party. And Drew, Fatness Everdeen, as I call him, we were just talking, and the conversation we were having about games and things like that, I was like, bro, you have to get on the mic. Like, you just got to get on the podcast. Like, just come on the show, whatever. So we did our first show, and it went great. And I was like, bro, you come back every week if you want. It's completely up to you. And he was all for it. And then a friend of his, he's like, we got to get Chris on the show. And I had gamed with Chris once or twice before, and I really wasn't familiar with him. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's see what he's talking about. Then Chris got on the show, and Chris was it just fit. And I was like, this is it right here. Like, it was all over again, starting from scratch. It was like, bro, this is lightning in a bottle right here. And, I think what solidified it heavily was us at New York Comic Con this past year. And the things that happened that weekend and the things that it just forged a better bond. Like everyone knows me. Like if I'm going out and it's a meetup or something, I'm going to have 6 or 7 cocktails in my hand, just throwing them back, whatever. And at Comic-Con, it was just like the perfect storm. Everything came together. Like the only reason I wanted to go to Comic-Con was to go to the Marvel panel. The Marvel panel had sold out. Like we got up stupid early in the morning to get there. People camped out overnight. I didn't know anything about this because my black ass wasn't sleeping on no street. So then it was like, yeah, it sold out. And then I got really upset. Like I was just like, I just want to go home now. Like I don't even want to be here anymore. And then a friend of the show was like, I can get you guys in. I know security and they can get us in. And I'm like, bruh, okay, right.
We know about that.
Right. So then sure enough, we got in. And it was just, again, a perfect storm. Like you couldn't just script that. And we recorded a live podcast inside of Dallas BBQs, my favorite spot in New York to get a drink and some good old buffalo wings. And the rest is history, as they say. It was the perfect storm. And that's that kind of chemistry that can't be bought. Like you can't script that. Like I talk to Chris and Drew every day, and they've added so much to the show that I could not do on my own. And it's, again, if like people want to start a podcast and they want to do a podcast and you want co-hosts, to me, it's just, don't force chemistry because it's gonna come off that way. And that's something that like if the three of us did not click, then they wouldn't be on the show. You know what I mean? And this isn't my show. Like granted, the name is The Phoenix Podcast because that's what it was when I came up with it in my head.
It's not your show.
Right. It's our show.
Exactly. Exactly. Now go ahead, man. Talk about your team, man. Talk about your Voltron team, man. You got more? Because I want to tell you a story, man. It's been building up for me for a couple of years now, but I got a story. But if you got more, I want to hear.
No, tell me your story, because I know the co-hosting thing for you is fresh.
It's fresh. It's as fresh can be, man. So I guess it just by way of history, I've been podcasting since 2009, so it's going to be 8 years this year, right? About 350 plus shows and the archives. Definitely proud of the work that that we've done collectively, because there have been many guests on the show for the last 8 years or whatever. But I've always fought against the co-host thing because I'm very stubborn and rebellious, and I always wanted to do the show on my own as long as I could, right? So the first 10% of the show, it was just me. Then you add a couple of more percentages. I started adding, different individuals that I wanted to have a relationship with in the industry, right? Whether it was, you or Paris or anybody else, that I really wanted to know these guys because they were podcasters too. And I wanted to have that relationship with you guys, right? So that was one half of the show. Then somewhere between 70 and 100, I tried to do a collaboration type co-hosting thing, and it didn't feel genuine. And it felt like I was pushing a narrative that really wasn't there as far as the co-hosting thing, just like you were saying. If it's not there, don't push it. And I thought it was there, but I was still learning, right? Podcasting was still new. 70 episodes seems like a lot. It's not a lot or whatever. So then fast forwarded to 200, to 300, and something started happening because the earlier episodes of the show, I started having the guests come on and have a conversation. And there's one name that kept coming up on socials and the chat rooms, and it was Miss DJM, right? So over the years, we've talked online all the time. She's always supported my work. I always supported her Twitch stuff. And very recently, I it felt like I was proposing, right? So I'm sitting here, because I'm sitting here in the chat and I'm like, I'm thinking about the co-hosting thing. And I've always heard that you mentioned the co-hosting thing, and Paris had mentioned it, and Godfrey had mentioned it to me. They were like, bro, if you want to go, far, you need some people with you, right? And I fought against that, as long as I could. But recently, I decided to, let's see who can I trust, right? Because I have to be able to trust this person, whoever it is, with this brand, right? So I don't know how you feel about that when it comes to having certain conversations, especially if they're going to present, the Phoenix podcast. I can't just have anybody just mess around with the name and the brand of the different things I'm doing or trying to do for the brand. You see what I'm saying? So it had to be somebody I feel that I could trust, had to be somebody loyal. They had to show me a history of them being a person of integrity. And there weren't, the list wasn't long for me, man, when it came to narrowing down to even Miss DJM. So I started having a conversation with her about it, had her as, guest co-host quite a few times. So we've always had a rapport. So when I asked her, I was like, yeah, so these qualities this person must have, right? And she was like, great, that's amazing that you're considering a co-host. Totally clueless. Got no idea. I'm getting ready to put this on her, right? So finally I asked her, I said, well, this person is you. And she was like, oh. And I'm like, yeah. So we went through all that, and I'm really excited about it, man. And I shared it with you. And then the first thing you told me is what you mentioned here. You were like, you know what? Yeah, you guys, starting off, right? First couple episodes, I get it. You're excited, but don't blow it out of proportion if it's not there. Don't force it if it's not there. And these are the words that you gave me. And dude, it's been like a Cinderella story, man. It's been like that kind of a vibe, bro. Like I don't have to worry about her saying anything crazy, right? So 5 years we've been supporting each other's stuff on and off the internet, and then this past E3 we got a chance to meet, for the first time. So that was great, totally great. So just even now, so 356 was recorded recently. Daniela came on at 340. She's been on ever since, obviously, and that's been nothing but good times. The reports coming in has been great, encouraging to me, you know, in terms of not necessarily having a co-host and that kind of a thing for that long of a time. And people are like, yo, the chemistry is great. You guys mesh together well. Polar opposites for sure. She's in Hawaii. I'm in New York, right? So
how does that work? How does that work?
So the hours is 6 hours, right, apart. So the thing is, most of our meetings and conversations that are related to the show as far as business and things that I want to look at, move forward, is really email, chat, and we have our meetings right after the show's over, right? So I used to record Sunday at 11, so we pushed the time up to 8 o'clock. So we have the show, whatever it is, guest or no guest or whatever. And then from there, any meeting or anything that I want to, you know, share with her post-show, that's when we have our meetings. And then other texts and other things like that throughout the week. So it's working great. No issues, you know, in terms of communication is concerned. In the beginning, the communication was slow. And I'll definitely say this as I'm thinking about it, because we're still learning each other, even though we follow each other online. That's not necessarily a relationship, right? So my fear going into E3 this year was that everything was great up until I met her, right? And I had a concern there, and she had the same concern apparently, because she wasn't sure if what she has seen these past couple of years is the same person she was going to meet. And I think we all have that, right? When it comes to you're getting ready to meet somebody, you don't know if they're real. You know, it could be the same person, but like magnified, right? Because they try to, you know, have a particular temperament online, right? And then when you meet them, it's crazy, you know, excitement, you know, the same personality, but just, you know, leveled up or whatever. Right. Or it could be a completely different person. It's like, okay, well, I met this person. They're so talkative online. Then I meet them and they're like, they can't even say a word or hold a conversation. So it's a whole different thing. So that wasn't an issue at all. Same person. We vibed, you know, sharing different things, a lot of heart to hearts and different conversations. So for me, you know, even right now, man, the show is at a different place because now I'm sharing it with somebody else, like you were talking about before. And I've never really had to do that. So everything that I'm thinking about doing, you know, I feel leveled up because I'm being pushed, you know, I'm being pushed more out there to do things that I really wanted to do, but didn't have anybody to really bounce it off with. Right. Mm-hmm. So execution is really big. It's always big, especially if you're doing a brand by yourself. But when you actually bring individuals into the picture, I think you kind of speed up the execution for certain things, at least put it out there to see if it's going to work or not, and then go from there. But I think it has changed, not necessarily the trajectory of the show itself, but it's changed the speed as to how we do things. And dude, it's been great, man. It's been great. You know, nothing but love for her and her support. And she's made the show her own. I know she made the show her own because like I was waiting to see. It's kind of weird because I was like, okay, so yeah, now she's part of the show now. Is she gonna put it on her Twitter profile? You know, because that Twitter profile, putting that information in your profile says like you really value this as something that you're a part of. See what I'm saying? Right. I don't put it. You see what I'm saying? I don't put anything in my Twitter profile that I'm not proud of. Right. So what you see is, you know, editor-in-chief, co-host of this, you know, founder of that, you know, podcasting since this, you know, website here, YouTube channel there, blah, blah, blah. That's what you're going to see in my Twitter profile, right? So the day that I actually saw her profile and then she had the show on there, I'm like, dude, this is real now. So now she's admitting that there's ownership there for her. Now right. that was level 1 or stage 1. So stage 2 for me was recently, was when she had sent a tweet out, because we did a show with Sharif Jackson from SpawnOn.me. Shout outs to them.
Speaking of which, I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
I'm calling him out right now. And I'm going to tell you why I'm calling him out.
Call him out.
I want him on the show. I want him on the show.
Good guy.
He's from what I see, he's a very good guy. And I always, and look, we'll get to this in a moment. Like, I've always talked to Paris. I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna get the Spawn on Me crew on the podcast. You watch, it's gonna happen. And he's like, oh yeah, do it. Hit him up. So I'm calling you out, Sharif.
Call him out, Sharif, good guy, man. So 355 was that episode. So prior to the whole E3 thing And I guess just a little quick story. I had made her business cards, and we're trying to figure out how I was going to get her business cards. Now, shipping to Hawaii is a whole nother thing, bro.
I don't even like shipping down the street. You talking about the other side of the...
It's a whole nother thing. So I was trying to figure out, okay, so how am I going to get you your business cards? Since E3, you know, this is your first E3, you're excited and all that. And she was really hype. So for a month, I hid from her that I was going, because I already knew I was going. So I was trying to figure out when the best time, you know, to tell her. So we were recording a particular episode, and I was like, okay, so I have these business cards here. I don't know, you know, how you're going to get them or fast enough for E3. But since I'm going to be there, I'm just going to hand you the cards. So she was like, oh, boy, she lost it. Boom, boom. So that was a surprise there. So after the whole surprise thing, so now it's like, okay, when 355, we're planning for that to record with Sharif, she had tweeted something like, oh, I'm not going to be there, but Sharif is going to be there to keep, you know, Andrew company. So I was thinking about that tweet. I was like, there's more to that tweet than what was said. It was, and to me, it was like, okay, it was a sense of ownership that you're already establishing that, okay, my partner is there, you coming in to support him. I appreciate that, right? And I'm like, okay, that was cool. But see, I kind of read probably sometimes too much of the tweets than I need to, right? So I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm going to let that one go. So then after that show was over, and then when we were recording 356, she said something like, man, I'm glad Sheree came through and kept you company and stuff like that. That was great. And I was like, yeah, you know, I didn't want to do the show by myself. And I was like, okay, so there is a sense of ownership there that you've already taken as your own. And that's all I was looking for, you know, so you respect the brand, you trust what I'm doing. And we have that conversation all the time. I said, why do you trust, you know, the stuff that I'm doing? She was like, well, you never gave me a reason not to trust the things that you're doing. You always, you know, keep it real with the people online. You don't do anything crazy, and things that I've done crazy, keeping it real with you, things that I've done crazy, I've already told her. Whether it was crazy or questionable, she already knows. So we already had those kind of conversations, stuff like that. So, dude, I'm in a different place, man. It feels new. It feels fresh. And I think that because we're vibing the way we are, it's great. Now, the other conversation to that is definitely something I wanted to have with you. And since we're doing this right now, is the video conversation. You know, us as podcasters, we have to all agree that video is not going anywhere. We know that, and we need to find a way to incorporate video into the things that we're doing, right? So which is why the Hangouts on Air is happening, which is why the streaming of different games almost every day for me right now is happening, which is why you see Parasum Gamertag Radio putting out all these videos and these voiceover things that's happening, which is why you see Khalif and Sharif or Spawn on Me doing what they're doing with video. So video for us is a necessity at this point. Because if we think that podcasting, and I like the way Paris put it to me earlier when we were having a conversation, he was like, yo, it's good. It's good to have appetizers. You can get full of appetizers, but there's a reason why there's other meals, right? And if we're sitting here dismissing that there's other meals because we love the appetizers, because we're so familiar with them, because we can order it without necessarily looking at the menu. But there's other stuff on the menu. So what are we doing with that, right? So then you have video platforms. You got the Twitch that's been here for a while. You have the YouTube, which is the second best SEO thing on the planet, right? You got your Twitch and you got your Daily Motions or whatever video platform you want to use, Instagram and Facebook Live and all the different things. What on earth are we doing with those things? So that's the next conversation. Right.
For me, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
No. I'm just saying that's the next conversation that we should really consider, that whether you're uncomfortable or not, you can't get away from it. You can't dismiss it, because just okay. So while I'm thinking about it right now, so I was streaming Gigantic today, earlier today, and then the community manager for the game popped in the chat. Yo, what's up? What's good? Yeah, I just interviewed her, you know, for 356. That's great. But you're streaming a game that people are ready to promote. Just because you do a hashtag and a link of a particular video online because you're playing the game at that time, you need to really take advantage of that. So for you, talk to me.
For me, it's like my Facebook is my private sanctorum, so to
Okay,
speak.
so it doesn't have to be Facebook. What are you doing with YouTube and the other stuff?
With YouTube, I think at this point, because I want to invest in getting a PlayStation camera so I can stream games on PlayStation exclusives, because that's the only time I touch the system. I would say like Connect, I would have done that with Beam or Mix, whatever the hell it's called now. But I don't really want all that stuff behind my TV or being plugged into different areas. So I stream on Mixer,
right?
Like Dead by Daylight that just came out on console, and my God, like,
is that good?
It's stupid fun. Like,
okay.
I know Chris from the show. He has a gaming channel called Random Gaming Bros, and we'll get in the group chat or party chat on Xbox, and let's say we're like, oh, let's play Grand Theft Auto. Like, we'll just record the entire time that we're playing, and then he'll go in, pull the video from that, and edit certain moments, and just show us as gamers having fun in the game. To me, like this Google Hangout thing, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. There's some people down there that says viewers. I see you.
Nice. Shout out to the viewers.
Absolutely. And it's something like I want to be able to have that kind of interaction now going forward. Like literally, like as I'm looking, like if my face goes down here, I'm texting literally in our group chat that we have, hey, let's do this every week that we record, posted live.
There's no reason that you shouldn't. There's no reason why you should not be doing this right now. Absolutely no reason.
Yes, I think that's the next step for the show. Is
you know why? You know why? You want me to tell you why? I'm gonna tell you why right now. Because there's certain expressions that we do with our faces, right? Even in the midst of having a conversation, whether it's a conversation that we're pleased to have or a conversation we don't even want to have, right? That we will never allow the supporters, the listeners, the fans, or whatever you want to call them, they won't see those things.
That's true. And it's so funny because, like, okay, everyone who knows me outside of podcasting, and I don't know if you can attest to this at all, like, I guess I'm the type of person where you can get my whole demeanor or how I feel about something based off of my facial expressions.
Right.
And I've always been like that ever since I was a kid. Like, I wouldn't say much. Like, I'm very opinionated, but I wouldn't say too much. But all my friends are like, we can tell exactly how you feel based off of your facial expressions. Like, someone would do something stupid in front of me, I'm just looking at them like, okay, like, man, you know, that's you. But and that's why, like, for this show, like, we are behind the scenes putting together some things, like, because, okay, again, one of my podcasting inspirations, The Read. They do live shows. I think that's been a dream of this show for a while. Like, we've had certain things happen, and they fall through the cracks to nobody's own fault. But we're working to do a live show in front of an audience. And that's something that I want to do. That's something that I want to be able to sit back and be like, we did this. Like, we put this together. We made this happen. And if that's a success, continue to do that going forward. Take advantage of events like PAX, be able to have a live show at a venue somewhere in PAX or Comic-Con or whatever the case may be. There is something happening next year for Avengers Infinity War. I think you and I talked about it. I'm not going to announce anything at the moment.
We briefly talked about it.
Like, me and that person that we're doing this with, it's happening. And I'm so excited to say that it's happening. And we're going to start pumping this thing. That train is happening in January. You know, we're going to get through the holidays, and bro, like, I'm so excited about that. I want to announce it now and be like, talk about it. But, you know, like,
no, don't talk about it now.
Oh, no, I'm not going. We're like, 11 months out. So no, I'm not going to talk about it.
We can't do it.
But, you know, like, and those are the kind of connections that I want, you know, with different podcasters, be able to say, everybody check out the show radio. Everyone check out Gamertag Radio. Everyone check this out. Check that out. Blah, 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 blah. And I want to build those connections and build our brands, so to speak, collectively. And I think that we have the space to do that. We have the platform to do that. We have great listeners to our show.
Right.
And I remember, and this happened recently, and I'm sure she's going to email me and cuss me out for it. So I went to this company function and a listener of the show was there. And, she said, "Oh, you're so brilliant." And I'm like, "You talking about me? Girl, ain't nothing brilliant over here. I'm just a dude behind the mic that just loves to talk cash shit about whatever the case may be." And then you get people like Karamo, who has been listening to me on a podcast since 2008. That's almost 10 years I've been doing this, since 2008. And he had to humble me in a way, because like, for me, I just do a podcast. I don't see me as a celebrity.
Okay,
I don't see me.
Can I help you?
Go for it.
I'm gonna help you, man, because I got rebuked this E3. And it may be along the lines of the same thing that you're talking about in terms of the context of the conversation, right? So we need to stop downplaying the things that we've experienced and the years that we've been around, quote unquote, right? So 2008, bro, that's a long time when you think about it. There's not a lot of people that can say that, some marriages have ended between 2008 and now. Babies have been born, companies have folded. I mean, a lot has happened between 2008 and now. So the fact that you've been around that long, still behind a microphone, still putting out content, still inspiring individuals to come on and be their own brand of podcasting or whatever they're trying to do, that's a big deal, man. And we can't downplay it anymore. And that's where I'm at. The reason I say is that's where I'm at. I'm at a stage in this thing right now is, okay, so I know what I've done, whatever that is, and I need to make sure that I don't downplay it when I'm speaking to people. Because I got hit over the head a couple of times with people like, yo, you need to stop downplaying it like you haven't been around for as long as you have. And I'm sharing that with you, man. I'm just rebuking you because they rebuke me. So I'm just letting you know what happened.
It's crazy because like Karamo, we were talking and I was on the phone with Paris, and me and Paris damn near talk every day. Like, Marvel news will come out and hit the internet, and me and him be like, oh my God, Robert Downey Jr. did this, and Chris Evans just signed his new contract going into phase 4 and beyond. And we literally talk every day. And the funny thing is, Paris and I have not yet met, in the 10 years or 9 or 10 years of our friendship. Haven't met yet. Next year will be the year that happens. So interesting enough. But, so me and Paris were talking, and Karamo was calling me, and I was like, hey, you mind if I conference him? And he's like, yeah, sure. So just hearing Karamo's pure excitement, like, he was just like, oh my God, Paris is on the phone. Oh my God. And I'm like, and I had to, like, once we all hung up, I called Karamo back. We were just talking about some things that I was planning. And I was like, it's interesting to hear you, like, get excited. Like, Beyonce was on the phone. Like, for me, I would have cried, screamed, kicked my shoes off.
Exactly.
And I'm like, it's interesting. So I was like, well, why? Like, bring me into that process, because I just see Paris as Paris, like, invite me in. And he's like, bro, you have to understand. And this is, again, the humbled piece that he kicked to me, was like, you have to understand, like, a lot of people don't have that access to be able to call your personal cell phone. We have access to email the show, to leave a voicemail for the show, listen to the show, but we don't have access to call you on your personal time and discuss something. So when you get that opportunity, it's kind of like, oh my God, I listen to you so much, like 2 hours on the way to work, and I listen to you, you say this and da 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 da. And he's like, you should really stop and think about how many lives that you as podcasters actually touch on a weekly basis. And he's like, what did he say to me? So for me, like, I guess I'm the quote unquote LGBT guy that talks about all sorts of different things as far as gaming and nerd culture and things like that. And he's like, you've opened my eyes as far as quote unquote inclusion and things of that nature. And we've gotten emails from the show, people that was like, and I got teary-eyed one time reading it. Like, someone emailed and was like, your show, you and just everything that you do, and you all do, I didn't just put it on me, but that you all do, stopped me from committing an act against myself. Because listening to you all lets me know that I'm great the way that I am. And getting that kind of feedback, I sit back and I'm appreciative and I'm thankful. And then looking at the numbers in different countries, like if you'd have told me 10 years ago, oh yeah, you have your own show, people from the Bahamas are going to be listening, people from Korea, Bahrain, Japan, countries in Africa are going to be listening to you. I would have been like, oh, shut the hell up. Get the hell out my goddamn face.
Right.
But then when you put the show out and you see the numbers trickle in for each episode, and you go back to past episodes to see where the numbers are for that, my mouth hits the floor and I'm like, people tune in for whatever reason you're tuning in to hear me be a complete dumbass every week. I'm baffled and humbled at the same time. I'm baffled and humbled.
Listen, I can't explain it. But one thing is for sure that I'm holding on to, especially for this past E3 season, if you want to call it that, is that what we do and we're passionate about, we can't hide it anymore, man. We can't. So my thing has always been, helping people, social good, fostering great morale, trust, loyalty, honor. Those are my things, man. I vibe on that. Great conversations, intelligent conversations. If we need to have them, we'll laugh. We'll have a good time. But I really think about the stuff that I'm talking about real time, and I don't check out because I'm talking, right? So it's engaged conversation. It's engaged monologues and things like that. So those things mean a lot to me, and I can't apologize for who I am anymore, right? When it comes to my passions, right? So even the narrative that or journey, it's not even a narrative as much as it is a journey now that I'm building with Daniela. I can't apologize that our chemistry is dope. I can't apologize for the fact that you may not like that, or like me, or like her, or like us, in terms of, co-hosts and stuff like that. And I'm sure that's kind of stuff out there, but I can't apologize for that anymore, right? Because we're at a place where we're changing lives, whether we like it or not. And we're still admitting that to ourselves, that we've been around long enough to even change a life for anything, but that's happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's still like interesting and weird. Like, what? So like me, it's just, as I always tell you, I'm a little fish in a big pond. That's
okay. So let's talk about that for a second, right?
Oh, geez.
So here's the thing, right? So my thing now is, and I was having a conversation with DJ about this, is I'm going to be the random guy who's going to reach out to a new podcaster and be like, hey, and I've already done this, if you need help with anything, even if it's just, information about, how to process a show, production tools and anything like that, if you need any help, just hit me up, let me know. I've sent a couple of those out last week already to the new and noteworthy podcasters on the iTunes page, right? That's where I'm at. Okay. I'm the guy right now asking other podcasters if I can come on the show and chat with them. And let's really talk about impacting the next generation of content creators that's coming on. I'm that guy, right? And whether I'm doing it with you, or you allow Daniela to come do it with you, or we do it together with you, that's what we're doing right now. So I don't know what anybody else is doing. And frankly, I don't care. Right? Because I'm at a point right now, okay, is I just want to make sure that if I were to pass away today, that's as real as it gets for me right now, that I made an impact on somebody's life, especially with the fact that we are able to do this microphone, this video stuff as often as we do it, right? It's not, I think it's a gift. And I think we kind of bring down the ability of having these conversations with people, but it's a gift that we have, man, and we have to share it with anybody that we can share it with, man.
And that's real. I mean, I can't even, because again, look at how we all became friends. And I'm talking about taking my co-hosts and myself out of the equation. We were all a part of one community at one point. And we all trickled out of that community and started branching. Look at Sugar Free. You know what I mean? Chris, he does Just Talking podcast, which is a phenomenal show. You all should check it out.
I just talked to him too. So that's coming out soon.
The interesting part about that is when, okay, now this is a little bit behind the scenes. We were doing PGR at the time, and we're like, oh yeah, let's bring him on. He sounds very, it sounds like it's to the point, can steer the ship in the right direction. Chris has and I like to call him the Oprah of podcasting in a way, because Chris has a way of dissecting conversation and making you speak on things that you never thought you would going in. And I remember being on I've been on his show twice. And the first time I was a nervous wreck. And that was the whole point of me saying, okay, I'm going to accept who I am. I'm going to be this gamer and this LGBT person in gaming. And at the time, there was really nobody Black, color, and gay doing a podcast about video games. You know, when you see LGBT people in media, oh, they're holding purses, they're wearing this and that. And it's like, we're not all like that. Let's get out of here with that. Not to say that anyone who does that is wrong and live your life. They ain't got nothing to do with me. But for me, just the outreach from not only fellow podcasters and community members, but and I'll never forget this, there were some people in the gaming industry who are still there today who reached out to me and was like, bro, it's just like, whatever you need, this, that, and the fourth. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how to respond to this.
Right. But if you never, got on the mic for anything, for any kind of conversation like that, nobody would be able to hear it. And if he didn't have the platform to continue doing what he was doing, that conversation would never be out there. So,
yeah. So, I mean, it's, again, like you said, you're reaching out to new podcasters. And I remember starting, and I probably told this story 1,000 times, but starting out in podcasting, I was very quiet and timid because I was like, I don't want to piss anybody off. Right. I'm not trying to step on toes. So people would ask me like, what do you think? I really don't like it. It's okay, but it's not for me. That would be the beginning, and the beginning, middle, and end of my thoughts on a quote unquote game. Then Danny, and I think I said this at the Messengers documentary screening, Danny pulled me aside in Seattle at the first ever PAX and was like, bro, I love what you're doing, but you can tell that you're holding back. And if I can tell that you're holding back, other people can tell that you're holding back. And he's like, you have a mic, use the mic. The mic is your tool to be able to convey and talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. And I think ever since then, it's just gone downhill from there, because now you can't tell me
you can't stop talking now. You can't stop.
Now you can't tell me nothing. I get on here and cuss Donald Trump out. I come on here and cuss. Ugh. But yeah, it's been an interesting ride, and I don't think it's a ride that I'm ready to let go of yet.
I'm grateful, and even I guess right at the tail of that is I'm grateful for every single individual who's poured into my life for whatever season that was, right? And they made me who I am, right? So standing on the shoulders of giants and all that, and I really believe that if it wasn't for the individuals that paved the way for me to even do what I do, or even still consulting with them now, if you'd want to call it that, or bother them whenever I need something. It means a lot to me, man. I don't take that lightly. I'm still learning, but at the same time, there are tools at our disposal, as I was mentioning earlier, that we definitely need to take advantage of, because it's not the podcasting that's going to give you your big break. Let me explain. It's not the Facebook Live that's going to give you a big break, right? It's not even the YouTube that's going to give you a big break. It's going to be 1 minute or maybe a couple of seconds from that, or some random person who listened to it who knew somebody in somewhere that can give you a big break. It could be that one question you answered and that person knew that person. See what I'm saying? It's not even that one particular platform that's going to give you a big break. So if you're not putting yourself out there strategically on those platforms with your brand and the conversation and even the narrative that you have on your podcast, because the way you tell on your podcast, you can't tell it the same way on YouTube or on Instagram, because those platforms, their minutes are different. right? Their engagement is different, and that audience is different as well. So we have so many different tools that are free right now that we need to take advantage of, man.
And I'm not disagreeing with you. So I'm not going to ask listeners again for any questions because I've said it twice. Anything else you want to discuss?
No, I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm glad that you know, we talk. I love when we have our conversations because we get, you know, some different perspective, and we change direction on the fly, which is great. You know, we don't need show notes and bullet points because we already have an idea of what we're going to talk about when we actually talk, which is amazing. And I appreciate, man, you know, if I've never said it before, I'm going to say it to you, man. I appreciate our friendship. I don't take that. I hope I've never taken advantage of it. And I'm really at a place right now that I want to be grateful for the individuals in my life right now. And yeah, man, that's really what it's about right now.
Wow. humble pie. No, like, again, we've been friends for a very, very long time. So again, like you said, I appreciate the friendship that you've provided me, and hopefully I've met that in return. And yeah, man, look, anytime you want, come on, hit me up.
Appreciate that, man. I appreciate that, man.
Even though I'm mad you told me to host it, because now I got to do the work on my end. I like sitting back and relaxing in the cut, knowing I ain't got to do shit.
I appreciate it, man. And I mean, are we doing like promos or anything at we closing?
Pimp everything out. Go for it.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, the only thing I really want to promote, well, two things actually. TheShowRadio.info. Once again, TheShowRadio.info is where we do the archives and stuff like that. Definitely follow Miss DJ M on Twitter, just like it sounds, Miss DJ M. And if you follow her and you feel like following me, I'm at Uriah, which is URIYYA.
All right. Well, if you all, and I know I'm going to screw all of this up, so bear with me as I go through my phone to find the voicemail for the show, even though I believe it's 678-753-5144. But I'm going to check. However, you can leave us email at feedback@thephoenixpodcast.com. We'll definitely we'll read those aloud. Oh my God, I got it right. I know the voicemail of my own podcast now. Yay. Yeah. So again, shout outs to Eddie, Dio, Drew, Chris, because again, this show would not be anything without the four of them collectively and separately, if that makes sense. Thank you for coming on this small, rinky-dink indie show.
No, man, this is big time right here, man. I love it.
Yeah. If it's big time, I'm trying to get some money.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm here.
And thanks for the listener or the viewers that are. Oh, look at that right there, right down there somewhere. Thank you all for joining us as we have had this discussion, and we will see you on our shows next time. Bye.